there was talk of another war crime in Gaza today. I believe the last Gazan journalist was killed this week. That his vehicle was targeted. And looping back to what you said, Marilyn, Gaza has no air defense. So, look, if they were really serious about limiting collateral damage and not targeting UN aid workers and journalists and that sort of thing, they could circle Gaza until the right person walked out of the right door and then zap them. The fact that they're making all of these mistakes and have been making these mistakes since day one speaks to their true objectives here. So, yeah, like, how can you sit there and try and say, oh, no, like, oh, if they do a war crime, I'll absolutely denounce it. And that's why I've said absolutely nothing for almost 2 years. Haven't seen one yet. They've never done one.
Has anyone ever said if Hamas committed crimes on October 7th?
It's a very good point.
And how many journalists in this country have said boo about the slaughter of journalists in Palestine? What was the statistic? Israel was responsible for 75%, it's not the accurate number, of journalists killed all year on Earth last year. How can it be? You can't have it both ways. You can't have the high ground and the bloodthirsty playing to your constituency. You just can't. We've got to call this out.
I was just looking, obviously, I'm sure you guys have seen it, there's photos and videos all over the internet at the moment of the journalist from Gaza. I should have saved it, I didn't, but on my TikTok feed today I came across, I think he's been missing once before, and he came back into the area and he was in a truck or a van and he had his elbow in the window and there was a girl talking to him through the window going, I thank God you're okay. When I grow up, I want to be a journalist. But it was him, obviously previously. And then, of course, the juxtaposition of seeing people around his body today is quite shocking. And as you guys are both saying, this is not an uncommon occurrence, which I think is the scariest thing of all.
I saw footage today of his mother approaching the grave. Just think of it. Just imagine the families, the children, the parents who have known that a member of their family is putting their life on the line to tell this story. How can that not be worth speaking to in our own media? How can that go by?
I think, Pat, when you talk about journalists and that sort of thing, one of the things that I have been incredibly disappointed with out of all of New Zealand's news outlets is how Radio New Zealand continues to use really passive language when it comes to what's happening in Gaza. Hamas has hostages, Israel has prisoners, which implies courts and a fair judiciary and all of that sort of thing. That UN workers and journalists are being killed, allegedly wrong place, wrong time. They're taking a very passive stance to anything that Hamas says. Anything that comes out of is of course from a Hamas source. Hamas sources say all of this sort of thing, where they don't do the same thing for Israel. And the more I notice it, the more it's there. I don't think our media have been doing a very good job at this at all. And when one of the aspects for putting pressure on politicians to do the right thing is our media, then they're failing us here as well.
Absolutely. The structure of the story Israel says this, assumption of trustworthiness. New Zealand voice affirms, because, man, we've got apologists here. They are Netanyahu's second-day story, no matter what he does. They don't say Netanyahu, who is internationally wanted for crimes of genocide, claims. They don't say that. Then they say the Hamas-led ministry claims, and where's the Palestinian voice? It's just so overt. I know that they've done their own investigation and found that they upheld their own policies. Well, I think we need to look at their policies, if so. There's no question. Why does our government do nothing? Because they believe they can get away with it. If you ask politicians, they will say, okay, here's the crowd in the street. No one else cares. You know what I do when I really need to be uplifted? I drive up the coast to, there are flag wavings. Just choose a flag waving. Go and wave a flag. Be among people who are far from the headlines, but they persevere week after week to say, we care, we find it intolerable, and here we are. That's what's going to make this change all over the world, times a billion. That's what we need.